Hi everyone, welcome to this video on authority records and their use in CollectionsIndex Plus. Authorities are one of the ways in which we control vocabularies within the system. The other way is terminologies, and terminologies have their own video on the channel, so you can check them out there. But the major difference is that terminology records are used when the term may not need that much more information about it in its own record. So for things such as colour or condition, they maybe don't need that much more information associated with them. While authority records are used when you're describing a person or an event or an organisation, and there could be a lot more information associated with that term. So to access your authority records, you go up to the Records menu, and in the drop-down at the bottom, you'll see a whole set of authority records. And these populate different fields within your collections records and other records within the system. So let's take a look at authority persons. You'll see that you can search these authority records either using a free text quick search or an advanced search, as you would any of the other types of records within the system. So it's always a good idea to search for a person before you create a new record about them, just in case they already exist. So if I search person's surname contains Arnott, there you'll see that we already have a Rebecca Arnott and a David Arnott, but my person that I was going to create is George Arnott, and so we're safe to do that. He doesn't already exist within the system. And the reason it's important to check if a person already exists is that obviously these records help with searching and retrieval, and if you have multiple instances of the same person's name and they're not different people, then you are going to dilute that search return. So if I click our Add a New Person button, we will get the edit form for the person authority, and I'll be able to fill in the information for George Arnott. And then we've got a person's titles, we'll do Mr. You can use the initials field if you would like. If you are unsure about what a field means, you can always look at the help text. The majority of the authority records are based on spectrum compliant fields, so your person, people, event, organisation, those authorities are all based on spectrum. And we'll talk about the archival authorities in a moment, but they are based on ISAR standards, so they're slightly different. But you can take a look at this spectrum help text within the person's records to tell you how to use these fields. The salutation is how you would address a letter to that person, so if you're having to correspond with a baroness or a duchess, then having that salutation line filled in might just help you know how to correspond with them correctly. Display name is useful. The standard default in most systems is that the name will display as the surname field, comma, first name field, forename field. So this would display as Arnott, comma, George, and then Mr. would be in brackets. We can configure that differently when we're setting up your system, so it may be slightly different in your system. But the display name lets you overwrite that and display the name as you want it to be shown in the record. So this is useful if you only want to overwrite that occasionally, or if the person, for instance, has a nickname as a middle name when they're being referred to, for example. Alternative names is for maiden names and things like that. There's a number of other fields that you can fill in. Type is the next section, and this is important for how your record will be used to populate fields within your collections records. So by default, all person records are marked as yes for artist, business and subject. For example, your object production person field will only look for person records that have the type artist, and your content person field will only look within person records that have the type subject. So as standard, we would suggest that you leave these defaults set to yes, because then your system will find your record whichever field you're looking for it in. The exception is your user flag. So this you would just change to yes if the person you're describing is, say, a volunteer or a member of your team that will be using the system. And this can have implications if you have the workflow engine as part of your system when you're assigning tasks to them. And also it will allow you to link this person record with their actual username and their sort of login information. So you can do that if you want to. Then we've got the description fields, so you can fill in these fields. We have contact information, so particularly useful if that person is a donor or if they are sort of an external conservator or an external partner that you're working with. The life fields are interesting, so you've got birth date, death date, a whole load of other fields here, and then a really big biographical note that you can fill in. So if the person you're describing is a historic figure, those fields could be quite useful. The digital asset section allows you to link not just digital assets but images to this record. So again, if this person is a member of your team, you could link their ID badge photo to this record, or if they are a historical figure or an artist and you have a good image of them, then you can link the image to this person record as well. In the admin section is where you'll find the available on the website flag. So if you want to make records about your historical figures or your artists available on the website, you can do that using this flag, and certain fields from this record will show up. So if you do have a big catalogue of your artists or something like that and you want to make that publicly accessible, that is something to consider with your Collections Online site or your third-party website. So I'm going to click Save and then close this record. So you'll see my record is now displaying with my display name. If I hadn't have done the display name, it would have displayed as Arnott, George. There. So let's take a look at the archival authorities. As I said, most of our authority records use Spectrum compliant fields, and if you have archival records alongside your object records, it may be that we configured the system to also use these Spectrum based authorities, so that you could just have all of your organisations or all of your person records in one place. However, if you just have archival records, or if you decided that you did want to keep those names separate, it's likely that you'll have an archival authority. So we can take a look at these, and if I add a new archival authority, you'll see that the first field I have to create, or I have to set, is whether it is a corporate body, family or person, and this will decide which of my archival record fields it populates. So I'm going to select person, and then all of the rest of the fields are generic, so they are less specific to a person name, because they also have to cover the corporate names and the family names. But I will add my name, so let's do Susan Arnott here. And then you've got lots of different fields. Again, you can look at the help text, and it will be ISAR help text this time. to tell you how you want to use these fields. There are less sections to this. You've still got a history note here, so you can write information about that person. You've got relationships, so you can link to the other corporate bodies or persons or families that you're creating. There's status and other levels that you can fill in, and then of course your admin section. I'm just going to save my name and then close this record, and we'll see that we now have a Susan Arnott within our archival records. So just to point out as well, we also have a Rebecca Arnott in here, as well as in the person authorities for the Spectrum compliant object records. So Rebecca Arnott will be an option whether you're looking in an archival or a object record. So let's take a look at how they are used within our different records. So if we go to our object record, let's just add a new record just to take a look at those fields. So if we go down to our description section, I mentioned that content person will only draw from your person authority records that are type subject, and it reminds you here that that is the case. So we can look up Arnott and see that David, Rebecca or George are all options, but Susan is not, because she is in the archival authority and not the person authority. So I'm going to choose Rebecca there. Then we can also look at our production section and then go down to production person and see that this time it's only searching in persons with the type artist, so we can do the same again and see that we can choose George there. And then if we look at history and association, we can see that this time it's just searching across all persons. It doesn't matter what type was selected. Go, and we've put all those persons in. Now if I save this record and view it, you'll be able to see that these names are in blue, and if I click on those names it will take me to my person authority about this person. If I go to my archive records and edit this archive record, we can take a look at the access points section, which is where the personal, corporate and family name populate. And if I click add here, it's just searching across the archival authority, so I can look for Arnott, and you'll find the Susan Arnott, the ISAR record for her, and the Rebecca Arnott ISAR record as well. And I can add those names. And the same would happen for our corporate name or our family name when we searched them. If we just save our changes now, and then view this record, you'll see again that these names are linked in blue, and if I click, we'll see now our archival authority record for this name. So if we head back to our dashboard that was a brief overview just of some of the different authority records. There are a few more that you can explore using the manual as well. One of them is a way of editing the field help text that we've seen, so we'll do a separate video on that. But otherwise, that is our introduction to authority records, and I hope that it has been useful. So if you have any questions or would like any more information about what we've covered in this video or CollectionsIndex Plus more generally, then just get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us or phone us on the contact details on our website, and I'll include a link to our website in the description of this video.